Hello. Welcome to the next session. This session is one in which I give you an example of a garden design. I'd like to say, first of all, I've gone into a lot of detail with this garden design. The reason is that I'm a permaculture teacher and I need to be able to show that know how to use the tools. And I really enjoyed using all the different tools and practicing with them and having a real life example of my own to be designing. So I hope that that comes across, that I really enjoyed the process, and that's why I've gone into a lot of detail. When you do a one-day design as part of a PDC, it's a lot shorter. You don't have as much time to explore it. I'm going to just briefly go through what I've done, and I will also link below the different things if you want to read them in more detail yourself in due course. So as a brief overview, this is my overview design. I started it when I moved to this place in October 2020. A garden design is never finished. They just always feel like, oh, there's so much, just finished writing it up and there's something else. But anyway, I finished writing this up in August 2023. It's my home. The aim is to create a design for my whole site, giving an overview of paths and approximately what will go where. So it's an overview design. I used Sadimet, and these are some of the different tools that I used. And I looked at the permaculture ethics, and these were the most relevant of the principles that I looked at. So the first thing was observation. I spent a year doing observation, in which I found out the brief. I surveyed the land, the location, the history, found out about the history of the site, as well as historical maps of the area. I drew a base map, which I have here as a tracing paper overlay. I drew it first of all on paper and then used tracing paper on top of that. Actually, I've got lots of pieces of paper that are tracing paper, but they don't appear very well in the camera. So what I've done is taken photos and uploaded them onto the document. So if you want to look at them in more detail, you'll be able to do that on the documents. So just, as I said, the brief was to create a garden for my family and for visitors, and as an excellent example of permaculture in action. I looked at existing maps, the maps that I was given when I bought the house, the title deeds, and talked about found out a bit more about the history of the site, looked up various different historical maps to see how the site had been used in the past. Yeah, so you can see this is my house here. And garden here, and this water is an important thing because the mill, Get Out of Fleet, we had a lot of mills. So there's a big mill here, and this was the dam, and the lade, which is like a little canal, goes from down the bottom of the garden right past the mill there. I drew the base map, so this is important for you just to have an overview that this is the base map. My house is up here to the north, with my living room where I'm sitting currently, sort of sticking out into the garden. There's a sort of paved area around here, so you can see with the little, you can see if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that where it's concrete, where it's paving slabs. So there's like a concrete here area, and there's a garage which I use as my garden shed, and it stores my wooden box bike, my cargo bike. And then this is the sort of extra garden that I bought separately at the end, where I've done a big focus on the food forest design. And you'll see that later. Starting out just as observing, I named the beds to make it easier to say where I had seen certain plants, just approximately where things are when I'm doing my survey and just keeping that record of things. I did the paste, the plants, and first of all, where I saw it, the common name is found the scientific name, and used the Stafford scale, which is basically if I say that this particular plant is dominant, as in there's loads of it. It's abundant. There's still loads. Frequent, occasional, or rare. So rare is if there's only like one or two of them, you know. So dominant, abundant, frequent, occasional, rare, DAFOR. It's used apparently for tree surveys, but I found it very useful for all plant surveys. And you can see there's lots of different plants that I have spotted throughout the garden. And yeah, so that was the first bit, just sort of observing the plants. Later, I took this, maybe I'll show you the thing I did with this much later. I took all that information that I put in that table, and then I was like, okay, so let me find out about this plant. And I researched each of those plants. Are they edible? Is it good for relaxation? Is it good for wildlife, for soil fertility, or other functions? And then came up with a decision whether I should stay or go. Yeah, so, but this is the first part is observation, which is what I did in the table I was just showing you. So this is the observation. Lots of plants, and then what the different animals are that I've found, including mammals, invertebrates, reptiles, amphibians, birds. So we're on PACE, so plants, animals, structures, tools, and events. We looked at the geology and find out about the types of rocks that we have here. And yeah, just looking at this area where we are in this brown area, the different rock types, just a superficial deposit description, marine beach deposit, landform and soil. So we looked at the pH, which is 7.5, nitrate is low, phosphorus is medium.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to find the mute button, but I didn't succeed. And we looked at the climate, which is sort of national data, daily percentages of sunshine, different graphs of precipitation, how much it rains. It's fascinating, all these numbers and graphs, and it's useful for it to all to be collated here. So if anyone asks me, although I can never remember the numbers off the top of my head, I know where I can find the answer just by going onto this observation sheet, looking at how much rain there is and humidity, wind speeds, and wind directions. Saying that we're in this sort of green, dark green hardiness zone, which is 8B. Yeah, just more information about the hardiness stones, the flood risks. So we looked at, before I've bought the house, at the flood risks to see that it wasn't likely to flood according to the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency. Looked at the microclimates or sectors, the energies passing through the site, the wind, the sun, the shade. Took lots and lots of photos, sun shade photos at different times of day to see how it looks at different, where the sun is last, where it's first, and what time at different times of day, of year. What time of day at different times of year the sun is landing in different places. And yeah, it's quite nice just to see how that is. And then I was able to map that. I put that onto an overlay of the map. Oh, some photos of the snow as well, all through the year. So I was able to say, well, on winter solstice at 9 AM it was shady, at 10 there was some sun, then 11 there was sun. So I could say, okay, there was 4 hours of sunlight. So it was a way of collating that information at different times of year. And then we came up with it, side A being partial shade. Yeah. So that was how I summarized all that information. And we have lots of areas that are full sun as well. Light shade, full sun. These are all areas that are named on that garden overview bed that I showed you earlier. So you can see those names in this first column here relate to the names of the beds. And then I've mapped that, put that onto a map as an overlay. So I did all those photos for a year, wrote that information, and then came up with this map as one overlay, one piece of tracing paper, saying which is an area of full sun, light shade, partial shade, dapple shade, moderate shade, deep shade. I looked into the water, the frost, the views. Again, looking at who has a view of which areas of the garden, and then drew that out onto a map. And the zones were the current use at the time when I first moved in, how I was using the garden space, which were zones 1, 2, etc. This is there, and I coloured it in. Did a survey of the people, did a client interview of myself, because I'm the main client, interviewed myself. It's actually really useful to do a client interview of yourself, because you might ask yourself questions that you hadn't really thought about yet. So do recommend doing that. It does help. And of course, yeah, paste what plants, animals, structures, tools, and events I would like to have in my garden. I asked Lewis some questions, what he likes and what he would like, and Robin as well. And we thought about the dog as well, Shia. And thought about the neighbours and their needs as well. It gives you an overview of that observation process that I went through. So having done that observation, I then did some analysis where I identified the key functions, which are to provide food for people for every day from the garden. Provide food for people, for me, basically, every day from the garden. Relaxation, I want to be able to chill there, play, sit, have a fire, observe nature, do yoga, eat, have relaxing activities there. It's really important to have a habitat for biodiversity. Education, I want to be able to invite other people here, and to build soil fertility. So I wrote that out as a smart goal. By 2025, I'll be able to eat food from the garden every day of the year. So functions are just like key kind of bullet points, as short as I can, sort of relaxation, food, habitat, or biodiversity, education, soil. So taking those as the key functions, I was then able to write down this table. So on the first column here, we've got those functions are listed, the same as they were up above. I pulled out the different aspects of the food just to make that more, a bit clearer. I want to eat food. So we've got a compost. Compost is one thing that provides soil fertility, different types of plants, the food forest itself, the birds, the hugel bed, forms of growing, as well as some of the elements that would be within those systems. I wanted to think about fruit, which is fruit trees, fruit bushes, canes, etc., as well as like larger structures like the greenhouse. Salad, again, looking at a greenhouse, food forest, raised beds, hugel beds. I hope this is useful to give you an overview of how it was helpful to use the function systems elements as an analysis tool. Limiting factors, physical, social, and ethical limiting factors. So listing them to get an overview of those different limiting factors. Then I looked at the ethics and said, in what way will this design meet each of the permaculture ethics of earth care, people care, and fair share? And then looked at the principles, some of my favourite principles, they're the principles that relate most closely to this design. Each element has multiple functions. That's one of the Mollison ones, and conversely, every important function is served by many elements. Yield is unlimited, and work with nature. Those are Bill Mollison principles, or Mollison and Slay. Then I looked at zones. I already observed the zones of the site, but then I thought, well, what is the desired zones. What would I like the zones to be into the future? And you can see that that's a different map, a different overlay. It's one of the different overlays. You can see how I'd like to be using the site. So rather than going through my neighbour's land, going around here every day in and out of my garden. I had a little party and that helped me to observe the garden in different circumstances and came up with an overview design, which actually I did partly with Robin and Lewis, my children, who came up with this idea of like having paths as a saltire sort of shape and a mandala. So they want the saltire, I want the mandala. So the overview of this garden design is that I have a fire circle in the middle, then a circle of logs for seating, and a circle of beds as a food forest, and then another circle of a path in a circle, and then another circle-ish of plants, again, sort of food forest. The pond is here. I don't know if you can see it very well. Yeah, there's a list of things that need implemented based on that. So the water design, as I said, it's really good to do the water design really early on. There is a lade. Apparently we can get a pump to fill up a tank in the chicken area when the pond. So I have this design for the water where I've already got a tap here and a water barrel, which is capturing the rain from the roof, but it's not capturing enough rain for all the garden for the, depending on the weather. And if we have a very long drought period in the springtime, then that one barrel won't be enough. So looking at putting barrels here inside where the greenhouse will be, and having a barrel here, which can be filled up over the winter, or we could pump water up from the lade when it's when the lade is full of water. I don't like to take water from the lade when the lade is low because I feel sorry for all the insects and all the water creatures, and like there's hardly any water. Also putting a pond around here in that sort of area. So then we've got the canopy design. So that's what are the tallest trees. So this spreadsheet is how decisions were made about the trees for the garden. This is the fruit design. Basically, I chose which trees: a plum, a damson, autumn olive. Part of like my decision about what I wanted to grow where is based around what was actually available. Like if I could get a hold of a tree, for example, from Graham Bell or from Carol Graham. So there's people that are doing permaculture. That's my ideal place because every pound that I spend is a vote. So if I'm voting for permaculture, literally I can buy things and give them to someone who's doing permaculture. I'm really happy. Even if it's a bit more expensive than other systems, because I think, well, I know that I'm supporting someone with an ethical business. So yeah, I have an autumn olive there, bay tree, pear, medlar, and apple. So I've got a Katie on an M9 rootstock. She's up against the wall. As well as the trolley, beauty, red currants, roosterberries, tayberries, jostaberries, and there's an alder tree as well. So the tree design, I cut out these little pieces of cardboard to scale. So the whole map, which we've talked about before, was a scale of 1 meter to 1 meter in the real world is 1 centimeter on the map, and that just makes it so much easier. Because then I was able to cut out these and say how big will it be, so you can see the shape on this design of how big the trees will get when they're at full size. You can see that one there says it's 4 meters. That says 4 meters, so that'll be 4 centimeters in diameter. Might be a different shape to that because trees are often not in a perfect circle. This Kate is really tiny because it's on the dwarfing rootstock. Yeah, you can see this circle of trees, and then there's another circle of trees here. But there's space as well. So you can see that there is space for the trees to get bigger and for me to have still space to grow different crops in between. So it's not going to be fully shaded. So this is the observation sheet I told you earlier when I did the plant analysis. So I took that information from the observation section and then related it to those functions that we'd identified, and then I was able to do this sort of decision whether I wanted to keep it or not. So I updated design again in August 2023 based on what had actually happened during the implementation. And I'm planning to have a herb spiral here. I have table and chairs here. I plan to put in more perennial vegetables down this side. I plan that this right by my kitchen doors for herbs and salads. And this would be much more herbs and salads. Plan that this will be a greenhouse. I have this 3-bay sort of system here. This is all the chicken area. And the compost is actually inside the chicken area, which is a design that works really well for me. You'll see the compost design later, which was actually before I got the chickens. I decided to put the chickens over it because I'd seen it in Ireland, and it was actually a system that worked really, really well. That the chickens, I don't need to separate things for the chickens and things for the compost. I just put it all in, and the chickens help themselves to whatever they want, and they poo it out. And it's their favorite place to hang out because, and then they poo there lots. So I'm not having to move compost from, their poo from somewhere else. So it's a really good place. I'm really happy with keeping the compost in there. It does mean that I can't cover it because the design for the compost involves having carpet over the top. But that's whilst it's in the first bay. And then once it goes into the second bay, I do cover it up with carpet, and that just helps it for all the microbes and the worms to do all their magic to make it into this amazing compost. I've got an apple, a Crawley Beauty in chicken area as well. We've got the different paths which are shown here. So this is a path down to the fire circle, which has a circle of logs, and a path out the other side down to the pear tree. So that those one thing I would say to you, if you are designing using these bits of cardboard, they're really, really great. But eventually the blue tack falls off and they fall off. So make sure that you do actually take the time, once you've made your decision about what's going where, do take a bit of time just to draw it up onto another overlay so that if the trees, the little card trees do fall off, then you're not stuck. Yeah, there's the pear tree. This is the overview design and that's the other entrances here. There's an entrance here from the road into the garden. You can come round and come along on this path, the little path that goes partway here, and then this circular path, and then the fire circle. So it's the overview of the path network that sort of felt really important. I then did an implementation sort of idea of what I would do, followed by putting that into a kind of Gantt chart to give an overview of what I would do when lots of these things have been done. Some of them haven't. It says build a sawhorse. I didn't build a sawhorse, but I was given one, so I have a sawhorse. So these things happen and change. Maintenance plan. So into the future, every year, these are the sorts of things that I want to be doing in these different seasons. The paths is always an interesting one. I put wood chip paths with something underneath. Sometimes I've put card underneath. Sometimes I've put lino. I put lino down recently just because there was some lying around in my garage, presumably from before I lived here when they put in new lino in the kitchen. So I just used that as a path just to see how it goes. Results are, it's pretty hardy. It's pretty good, actually. It seems to be mostly keeping the weeds at bay. Fruit. yes, you can see different fruit, things that we need to do at different seasons for maintenance. And then there's the evaluation. So remember, I had the SMART goal, which was by 2025, I'll be able to eat fruit, salad, and or vegetables from the garden every day of the year. In order to do that, I need to record whether I'm doing that. Luckily, I've had hens for that entire time, and I can assure you that every day I've been eating something from the garden. Yeah, every single day of the year when I'm at home, not necessarily if I'm away up in Glasgow or somewhere else. But when I'm at home, I have been able to eat something. I think my last frozen raspberries, which I was putting in my kombucha, I ate like last week or the week before. And my first raspberry I got today, which is mid-June. So I'm quite excited to have had my first ripe raspberry and hope to be eating them for a good couple of months as well. I was keeping a book recording all the harvesting. I didn't do weights. I didn't weigh everything I've taken out of the garden. For a while, I was doing well at recording it, and that slipped, I'm afraid. Yeah, so this was me doing a quick PNI of evaluation. See, how would I be better off to do an evaluation? And the answer was, I would do it electronically, but I decided just to use a notebook on the kitchen shelf, and I did use it very well for a while. It slipped most recently, but I'm sure I'll be able to easily get on that one again. And then you can see the plant analysis as well. So these, oh, goodness me, there's a lot on this, isn't there? So there's plants already growing. I showed you the implementation plan, what would be done when, evaluation of whether it was done. So the green things, they're done. Yay, I did them on time. The red things have not been done. The amber things have been rescheduled. So there's things, yeah, things that are planned to be done into the future. Those are the orange things on that. So evaluation, read the functions. Does it provide food for people every day from the garden? Yes, because it has eggs from the garden. And all through the growing season, I eat green things from the garden, from the first nettles in February. Yeah, I mean, I'm eating nettles right through the year because I keep cutting them back and they keep coming again. And there's salads and there's vegetables. I have relaxation space. I have a fire pit, which I like to just sit and enjoy. We have the table and chairs. I eat lunch there most days. Yeah, and I like, even if I'm just standing at the window gazing out, it's very relaxing actually. There's great habitat for biodiversity. There's so many birds. It's just crazy. All the starlings and sparrows in the hedge by the fence with the chickens. There's slow worms, lizards, sparrows, sparrowhawk. The starlings were away, but now they're all back. They're really happy in my hedge now. So they went away for quite a long time, but they've come back this year. There's loads of insects. There's loads of birds. Actually, dunnocks have a nest in my neighbour's garden, but they spend most of their time in my garden on the other side, and they have a dust bath in my raised bed. Education, well, the PDC came here, and other people, yeah, PDC came here in 2023 and in 2024. We've had other people coming, friends and family coming as well. I also take materials and resources from the garden. For example, the rosebay willow herb is hollow stems, so I use it. I use it for kindling, for branching out, as well as at home. I use it for making things as well. And oh yeah, maths week as well, like teaching kids maths in the outdoors. Building soil fertility, I actually have had fantastic compost. I was really delighted last week when I emptied it out again and got like a massive barrel full and like 3 trugs of compost. It was really, really good. The chickens are very good at producing good compost, and the Hugo beds, the food growing in the Hugo beds, are producing really well. I love this actually. Last year, my medlar tree was not looking healthy at all. So I got loads of horse manure and put that on it, and I got loads of seaweed and put that on it. And this year it's looking really, really healthy. This is something I'm really happy about. It's transformed. It just shows you the power of mulch and the power of having really good, building that soil fertility, adding organic matter. Yeah, and made various tweaks along the way. So as I said at the beginning, this is how I've done my garden overview design. This is not the level of detail that I would expect you to be doing on a PDC, but it shows you how I've used some of the different tools through my design process, which I hope you find